turning our attention to New Hampshire, home and home, beginning Friday up in Durham. Just want to get your thoughts heading into the weekend series.
Yeah, it's always a tough game when you play up at New Hampshire. Uh, Mike Souza always has his teams prepared. They're very well coached. It's a tough building to play in. I think they have a very talented freshman class that they've added to that team. And then you have the returners in Leclerc and Winters. I think Fitzgerald on defense is someone we're going to have to pay attention to. Uh, and it's a tough place to play. It really is. And there are no easy weekends in this league. And New Hampshire's going to pose another really uh, tough opponent for us come Friday night.
Awesome. We'll open up for questions. Joe, get us going.
Thanks, Colin. Cav, so many come from behind wins this season. What does that say about your leadership and the belief in the room that no deficit is too big, even though that might add some gray hairs to the head coach?
If I had hair, Joe.
Trust me, I can relate to
Yeah.
that.
If I just think, yeah, I've talked about it quite a bit that, we have seven seniors, and there's not many teams, I think, that are going to have seven seniors because just the way that college hockey is today with guys leaving early for pro or transfers or those types of issues, it just, it's hard to keep, the freshman class that you recruit to keep that entire class intact for 4 years is very difficult these days in college, the college sports, pretty much. So the fact that we do, I think they're very experienced and they don't panic when we get behind in a game. And it's been evident this year, as you alluded to, that we've been able to come back and whether tie a game or even win some games coming from behind.
Anthony Elaine Samaki, really young kid. What did you see in him when you were looking at him, and how has he progressed since the start of camp till now?
Yeah, well, he's an elite skater for one. And he's by far, I think, the youngest kid on our team. Uh, so, uh, I guess one of the things we saw in him, Joe, was his ability to handle the puck, ability to skate, and doesn't get enough defense. Excuse me. He doesn't get enough, I think, praise about his defense. He's really strong and good down low as well, especially for being one of the youngest kids in Hockey East.
Last question for me. Can you talk a little bit about how Mike helped you as your assistant for the first 2 years and kind of getting your program running and off the ground?
Yeah, he was a kid that I definitely, well, I had worked with him previous when he might have been a senior at UNH, and I was taking a Team Massachusetts out to the national development camp in the summer, and Mike was my assistant. So I got to know him there. And then when, I got the job and I was looking for, he had just started at Brown. I think it was his second year at Brown, and he was someone that I was familiar with. It was someone that knew Hockey East. So that was important to me. I wanted an assistant coach that knew the league. And he came in and he had played a lot of pro hockey. He never actually played in the NHL, but played a lot of American League games, played overseas, had a lot of experience. Uh, and he was great to have as a right-hand man those first couple of years because it wasn't easy. And he was, like I said, uh, thought he did a really nice job here. He's a personal friend, and I think he's done a nice job at New Hampshire.
Thanks, Kath.
Mhm.
Dan Booth, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Yeah, so I'm working on a story with Jake Percival about him being a Connecticut kid, about his impact on the program over the years. So my first question for you is, with this program's continued ascent over the years, how important has Jake's impact been on the ice, in the locker room, and ever since he stepped foot in stores?
Yeah, he was a kid that we saw out at the USHL. I didn't really know much about him, and he caught my eye out at the opening tournament out at the USHL. He was playing for Cedar Rapids and Mark Carlson, who does a great job with his players. And I knew that if he could play for Mark Carlson, because he's a tough, demanding coach, that he'd be a type of kid that could fit in here. And he skates really well. He's got a uh, excellent shot that I want him to shoot more uh, for sure. And I'm glad he did last weekend because he finally broke through last weekend. But he's a superb penalty killer. He competes every day. Uh, One of his, I think, most unique traits as a player is his stick is elite. He's very, very good at baiting people into passing a puck into a lane that he can either deflect the puck or intercept the puck. And it's something that he does really well. It's probably what makes him, not probably, it's one of the things that makes him an excellent penalty killer as well.
And in terms of continuing to build the culture that you want here with the Huskies, how important has he been to building that culture and being a part of something that, you guys have been ranked several years in a row now and continue to be a force in Hockey East?
Yeah. It's interesting, everybody, that's such a buzzword, the culture word. I think it's got to be a given if you're going to be a winning program. Like no one invented culture. Like I get a kick out of some of these coaches who say once they buy into my culture, no one invented culture. You do things the right way or you don't. And fortunately, we've had a lot of kids here that do things the right way because they're here for the right reasons. And I think it's uh, evident really in all the programs at UConn. If you look at Jim Calhoun's programs or Gino's programs or Danny Hurley's programs or Jim Pender's or Nancy Stevens, and you can go right down the list. When Ray Reed was here, and now you're seeing Bondi doing it, uh, things just get done the right way. There's a UConn way that you do things, and uh, we all have to adhere to that. I mean, Chris McKenzie's doing it with our women's program. Uh, so Jake's just a kid who came in here, and as a Connecticut kid, I know UConn's important to him. It means a lot to him, and he's going to do things the right way.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you.
Daniel, go ahead.
Just since we're not gonna get you again until or before you play Stonehill, David was your predecessor as an intern here at UConn. How well do you know him, and did you talk with him at all when you were taking over?
Yeah, I knew him, very well. We're going back to God, he was assistant at Providence to start, I think, right away. And then I know I went out to Lake State with Scotty Borick for a while, and then he came back to Providence, I believe. But I've known him on the recruiting trails for years. Uh, when I did get the job, I did talk to him, and he did give me a little bit of insight. And then he got the job at Holy Cross and went back to Providence again, and now he's at Stonehill. But he's a very meticulous, detailed coach. I've had a chance to watch Stonehill play because we've played Northeastern and they played Northeastern and they played someone else that we were playing. I can't remember. So I've watched your team play a couple times, and you know they are extremely disciplined, uh, methodical about the way they play. They don't beat themselves, and it's kind of how David coaches. And uh, I don't. I'm not. We got New Hampshire first this weekend, but uh, you know, I think you'll have a chance to ask me about Stonehill on Monday, Dan.
Well, just less about their team, but just how they end up on the schedule. And is it are you going to be going to play them next year, or is this just a one-off?
Well, Brian Regali, who played for us, is one of their assistants as
Oh,
well.
cool.
And, uh, we needed one game and they needed a game, so it worked out. And yeah, I'd love to play them in the future. And I will go there. I think if they're building a new rink, and once they build a new
Okay.
rink, we'd be happy to go there.
Thanks.
Randy, go ahead.
Thank you, Colin. Good morning, Cav.
Good morning. How are you, Randy?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you. Wanted to ask you about your defense as far as your attack. You got four on the blue line that have 4 points this year, and I know at the beginning of the year you said it'd be you want all five guys on the attack in the O zone. How would you assess what the defense has brought to your offense this year?
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job. I think Tyler does a fantastic job with our defensemen. First and foremost, I want them to defend. That's why they're called defensemen. So that's got to be number one. But yeah, we want to have an attack that brings all five people into it. And one of the things I think that is really unique about our team is, our leading scorer has 8 points, but we have 15 players within 4 points of that. So that's a lot of balanced scoring. And that's the type of team I want to coach. I think that when you have, a one-line team that you have to rely on for scoring, some nights they're not going to have it, and you might struggle. On our team the other night against Northeastern in that comeback, we got goals from each line in that comeback. So it's something that we pride ourselves on, and our defensemen are also part of that. So the more players that we can get contributing, I think the tougher team we are to play.
And just the second and final one for me. Joey, of course, scores the game winner in overtime.
Yeah.
Back in there. Dzane, Scott, they were a couple of weeks ago, got back in there and scored big goals. When a guy, gets back in the lineup and scores big, what does that do for everybody? Because you could kind of see your team seems to really get behind those guys all the more when they pot a big one.
Yeah, I think it's always great for them and coming back and their confidence. I told this story the other night on the radio show. I didn't think Joey was playing very well in the game. It wasn't that he wasn't playing well. I just thought it was tough. Like, he hadn't really practiced or played in a week, and he looked a little tentative, and I almost didn't play him in overtime. We debated it on whether we were going to play him, and then Tyler Helton had sent me a story about Nick Saban saying the first coaching lesson he ever learned was, it's not about the play you call, it's about making sure it goes to the right player. And, I thought about that and I said, how the hell can I keep a 30-goal scorer on the bench in overtime? So luckily I listened to my assistants, and it was, he wound up winning it for us.
Thank you. We'll see you Friday.
Great.
Elena, go ahead.
Morning, Coach.
Good
With
morning.
first of all, what is the difference you think that's led him to have his breakthrough recently?
Jake Percival?
Yeah.
I don't think anything. I think he's been playing a solid brand of hockey the whole time. And in this sport, I don't care who you are, you're going to go through, I don't even want to call it slumps. I don't think that's the proper word. It's just hard to score goals. And you might go through, 3, 4, 5 games without scoring a goal. That doesn't mean you don't have an impact on the game. One of the greatest players I ever coached was Brian Giunta, who scored more goals than any player I ever coached in college hockey. I think he had 120 goals in 4 years. When we won the national title in '01 through the national tournament, he didn't have one goal in 3 games, not one. And we won a national tournament, and he was our most important player because of the impact he had on the game in so many different areas, helped us achieve the goal of winning a national title. Jake Percival has such an impact on the game, whether he's scoring or not. Last week he was rewarded, and that was great. He went to the net, he got deflections, but some of those deflections that he scored on last week get saved sometimes. That doesn't mean he's playing poorly. So I think he's been playing very consistently from day one, and last week it was great. He got rewarded.
Okay. Thank you. I have another one.
Sure.
Coming off a weekend sweep, what are some things that you've been working on that can benefit you guys going into this weekend versus UNH?
Well, we need to work on a lot of areas. I think we continue to need to work on our special teams. I thought they were solid last week, but I don't think they're at the level where we're capable of playing. I think we need to continue to work on our offensive zone play and, you know, creating multiple shot shifts. I think that's what wears teams down and gets you goals. I think we got to continue to work on our communication between our F3 and our defense, so we're not giving up odd man rushes. So there's still a lot of aspects of our game that we need to retool and get better at.
Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
Calvin, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning, Calvin. How are you?
Good. Myself, Pete, and Elena are the broadcast team on Friday night at UNH. So I
Great.
got a couple of questions for you. You kind of touched on this earlier, but you returned 8 of your 9 top point getters from last season, which is kind of like an anomaly in college hockey in 2025. How much has that helped help your team here early in the season?
Well, tremendous. We had a tough schedule. We opened up, at Colorado College, Ohio State, and BU. All ranked teams last week. It was a tough schedule. And if we didn't have that type of experience, it could have been crippling, to be honest with you. But because we had that type of experience coming back, we were able to play really well in those games and go 3-3 in those 6 games. So I think that was important, and then we followed it with Providence, who's a really good team, and Northeastern was 7-1. So it's been a tough schedule to start, and we've survived, I think, that tough schedule, and a lot of it has to do with the experience that we brought back.
You mentioned the splits in there, but last weekend you got your first weekend sweep over Northeastern. How big was it for your team to get 2 in the win column in one weekend?
I think it was, important for sure. I tried to let the players know that, one weekend doesn't make or break a season. So you have to stay just really focused on one game at a time. It's like we're not thinking about sweeping New Hampshire. We're thinking about playing really well Friday night. Like that's where our mindset has to be. But when the weekend ends, Calvin, yeah, we were pretty excited about the sweep.
You might not like this next question then because you're focused on one game at a time, but you guys are about to enter a stretch of 3 games in 5 days, 5 games in 9 days before the break. How important is a strong finish to the first half of your season?
Yeah, it's always important, but it does, like I said, it's not going to, the first half of the season, you can't win any trophies. You can make it really hard to win trophies if you don't play well, but you want to play well, kind of figure out the identity of your team and put yourself in position to win trophies in the second half of the season. So that's why it's important. But I believe last year, we were 500 when we got into Christmas break, or very close to it, somewhere near there. So it's, again, we're just focused on Friday night because I know this in this league, if you start looking 3, 4, 5 games ahead, you're just going to overwhelm yourself and you're not going to play very well. So we're just focused on playing really well up at the Wit on Friday night.
We can look at, your guys' box scores and lineups and see Joey and the scoring that he provides. But who on your team do you feel like goes under the radar and deserves more recognition for what they do to help you guys win?
Oh, well, look at Tabor Heaslip. Look at, if you look at our senior class, like you look at Tabor Heaslip, you look at Jake Percival, You look at Tristan Frazier. This year, Houston Cartman's been dressing every game for us pretty much up front, providing when he's on the ice, he's played very well, but he provides an incredible leadership on the bench. Tom Messinio, that whole senior class, Tyler Muslik, that senior class has been, they don't get a lot of accolades. And they're just basically the heartbeat of our team.
Last one for me. Has there been an underclassman who has surprised you or impressed you here early in the season?
Not really. A lot of people will point to Mike Murtagh, but it doesn't surprise me because I watched him last year in practice, and we had such a good team last year. He probably didn't get the minutes and playing time that he deserved. I shouldn't, there was just we had some really good players that were ahead of him. But this year you're seeing the impact he can bring on a nightly basis. And it's been fun to watch him play.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks so much.
Sure.